Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Jay. Yeah, I'm here to give my opinion on the the election and what I think is going to happen. I think Joe Biden is going to win the presidency and become the new president of the United States, the 46th president of the United States. Um, yeah, it was a hard fought race, but President Trump is way behind. I don't see him pulling through, guys. Like, it'd be a miracle. Maybe miracles can happen, but I don't see it. I don't see it happening. You know, to me, I think Joe Biden has this in the bag, pretty much. So we got to prepare ourselves for what a Biden Harris administration is going to look like. It was an unpredictable year, and it was a hard fought race. I mean, you never know. The Trump administration, the Trump camp are counted are crying foul. They're saying, "Oh, a recount in Michigan, a recount in Wisconsin." They're trying whatever they can to uh, win. They're appearing desperate at this point. It's kind of like in 2000. I remember it was like that for the Democrats. As a matter of fact, go back in my 2000s video, 2000s year in review video, decade in review video. I talked about it. I said for the whole first term of George W. Bush, well, before 9/11, people on the left were constantly complaining that he stole the election. So now it kind of seems like if there is going to be a Joe Biden presidency, the ironically enough, the Democratic vice president is now going to be uh, challenged. The legitimacy of his of his presidency is going to be challenged by the right consistently. They're going to consistently undermine him, and we're at a much fever pitch place in 2020 now with the pandemic and all these groups like Antifa and stuff than we ever were in 2000. We're a much more divided country in 2020 than we ever were in 2000. So going into the second decade of um, the 2000, I mean, going to the second decade of the 21st century, I believe, yes, I believe that Joe Biden is going to win. There is no way that President Donald Trump, can pull through in this. Sorry for the Trump fans, the MAGA fans. You guys are, I'm trying not so hard. I supported Biden, so I'm trying not so hard to gloat and to make fun of y'all. I know your candidate, you know, he lost. What I mean? It is what it is, man. You know, yep, that's true. Donald Trump is trying to sue to stop counting, but it's pretty much in the bag. You know what I mean? Like, I just saw a viewer drop off that was watching, and I noticed some right wing viewers here, some Trump fans that watch my stuff. But y'all know I supported Biden. I respect, um, but I don't really respect people that are Nazis or white supremacists or anything like that. But if you're just a normal person that's a Trump supporter, I respect you. But if you're some kind of violent, crazy, Proud Boys type person, you don't have my respect. Let me just say that. But if you're a normal person that you just happen to support Trump and that was your candidate, then sorry, you lost. That's you win some, you lose some. What can you do? Right? We've all the first election I ever voted in 2004. My guy John Kerry lost the election. You know what I mean? It shocked me. So it is what it is. You pick up, you find a better candidate next time. You know what I mean? But you have to reevaluate yourself and think to yourself, yeah, that's true. Um, I mentioned that in my other video that Arizona got the support due to the way that Trump disrespected John McCain in memory and from the endorsement of John McCain's wife, who is very conservative. Arizona is the bastion of modern conservatism. Arizona was the state that Barry Goldwater, the father of modern conservatism, came from. He ran in 1964 against President Lyndon Johnson, and then John McCain carried on his torch in the Senate. So that's like the reddest of the reddest of the reddest of the reddest states, and it flipped blue last night. I don't know if that's a referendum on how bad Trump is done, disrespecting a person like John McCain that was a war hero in Vietnam, or if it has to do with Hispanic immigration and changing demographics. It could be both. But my point is, I supported Joe Biden. It looks like Joe Biden is going to win the election. And that makes me happy because we have to see something new, a new vision coming forth. We've had 4 years of Trump. Trump proved to the people that he really did not know what to do under pressure. He proved to the people why you need some kind of government experience. And this is for Democrats and Republicans. You need some kind of government experience in order to go into that kind of office because when you're tested, you never know. Right, exactly. What Lisa said, there needs to be there needs to be a certain qualification other than just being of a certain age. He proved why just anybody cannot be president. Sure, anybody can win because you can talk a good game, you can convince people that you have a great personality. You could be a very charismatic person like Donald Trump was, but once the pedal is to the road and you don't know what to do, it's not you just that you're just fucked. The whole country is fucked. The whole world is fucked because the United States is the most powerful nation in the whole world. Maybe not anymore because China has the edge up on us, but in terms of influence, we are. So you need to have at least some level of experience in governing, in running, being in politics somehow in some kind of capacity, a minimum of at least 2 or 3 years. We tried that with an outsider and it didn't work. It failed miserably because sure, he was governing the economy, all right, but the economy is an organic thing. It's going to be good whether or not he did anything to stop it or not. But with the pandemic, Trump was totally unprepared. He didn't know what to do. And because he didn't know what to do, plenty of people died. And this election was a referendum on him. In the same way that the election of of him and Hillary Clinton in 2016 was a referendum on how bad Hillary Clinton was But that was more of a referendum on her personality. She was an unlikable person. She was unelectable. She was untrustworthy. So they say anybody but her, even him, a person with no experience. But that kind of stance cost us as a country. That kind of attitude cost us as a country. So what happens when one thing doesn't work? We go to the completely other opposite in Joe Biden, who's been in government for like 70 years. You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, you know, the Trump era was very divisive. That's another thing. Like, where we're ending now is like, at no time in American history since the Civil War has the country ever looked at each other as enemies. Has people ever been afraid to express their political views to another person for fear of being ostracized, for fear of being killed, for fear of being bullied? Yeah, he knew what to do was written down by Obama, but he didn't know how to go about it. You know what I mean? He ignored it because he's Donald Trump. You know, he's a reality TV show star. Like, this is what you get when you elect a TV star to be your president. You're gonna get, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be hilarious in a way, but it's gonna cost you a lot. And you know, there are a number of voters, myself included, that switched from Obama in '08 and 12, Trump in 16, and Biden in 20. And it was because of the changing of currents and the different situations uh, that existed during those elections and the different people that ran. Uh, you know, and we would have given Trump a second chance, but he didn't handle the pandemic well. He didn't handle race relations. He handled race relations horribly. Like I said, the country is more divided than ever. You know what I mean? People are afraid to express their viewpoints to other people because they're afraid they're gonna die. They're afraid they're gonna lose their life. They're afraid they're gonna lose their um, livelihood because of the way things are. But yeah, Lisa, you're absolutely right. Obama's administration wrote down for him what to do, and he didn't do it. I think the Bible says that a prideful man will fail, and that pride is the downfall of all human beings. And that's what President Trump really was, a prideful man, a very proud man. And he didn't want to listen to anybody's reason. He don't like anybody but white. You know, like, I mean, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But like I said in my 2010s video, he rode the wave, right, of that hostility, that was beginning to start in the early part of the decade that led to him. And he knew what to say and when to say it because he's a TV star, and people didn't like Hillary, so this is the alternative they got, and this is what they got. Now many of them that weren't for him in 2016 switched to Biden, just like how some people were for Obama and switched to him. They call them the I forget what they call them, the Beltway voters or whatever. Like, switching because that a lot of people don't like this division. They want it to go away, but I think this the damage that he has done in the last 4 years. Um, won't go away. It won't. It's not going to go away for a very long time. Biden is not a miracle worker. Biden is not. He's not going to just heal Corona. He's not going to heal the political division, but it's a step in the right direction. At least it won't be a president who constantly points to race and ethnicity and gender and political opposition and demonizes the other side. The mistake that Donald Trump made, and watch this watch the Frontline documentary Divided America on PBS. Talks about goes from '08 to 20, and it talks about the divisions in our country that have existed since '08, and the optimism that existed under Barack Obama versus the pessimism that existed under Trump. And it talks about how Trump played on a lot of our divisions, and that's what got him elected. He pointed to divisions in our society. And instead of the night he won in 2016, instead of saying, like Biden has just said, we got to come together as Democrats, Republicans, whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians. Instead of saying that, he spent the whole 4 years basically campaigning while governing, still going on rallies, still talking about enemies, still calling enemies out, still saying this one wouldn't do it like I did it. I'll do it better than this one. Still calling out his predecessor, Barack Obama, still calling out other predecessors like George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Like, you spent the whole 4 years on a campaign trail doing rallies and stuff. I mean, like that's why you failed. Because instead of saying, okay, yeah, I campaigned on division, I campaigned against my predecessor, Barack Obama did the same thing. But after Barack Obama got into office, he didn't still continuously talk about George W. Bush in the Iraq War. He took responsibility and he went into the Iraq War. He didn't put it all on George W. Bush. He could have, because we were in that situation because of the things that George W. Bush had done. But he didn't do that because that's not professional. When you're in the office and when you're in the chair, what you do matters, not what the guy that came before you or the woman that came before you has done. And it's like Trump never stopped attacking people, never stopped being vitriolic, and never stopped appealing to just his base. What he did was what a lot of um, Barack Obama supporters wanted Barack Obama to do: just govern to a base, just govern to um, just black supporters. Everybody always said, well, how come Obama didn't do anything for black supporters or whatever? His detractors, his people, the Obama haters. And it was like, well, he's the president for everybody. He's not just going to talk about just you. If he did, he would have ended up like Trump and he wouldn't have got a second term. This is what happens when you just appeal to your base. If you end up to be a failed president. you know? Like, this is why Obama couldn't do what you, the haters, the far left, wanted him to do, be that kind of person. Because when you're that kind of person, you don't govern correctly. You can't treat the whole 4 years like it's a campaign to get reelected. You have to deal with problems as they come along. Yeah. Well, the thing with that though, Lisa, is that Trump campaigned heavily with the Hispanic community, and he campaigned as an anti-socialist. And a lot of people that come from that portion of the Hispanic community, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, they come from heavily socialist countries. And Trump appealed to that, and plus the whole thing about BLM and the spin of BLM on right wing radio was that it was an anti everybody who wasn't African American, which it isn't. I talked about it on my channel, but it was presented to them as that, so they figured, oh well, um, you know, I don't want to be associated with that, so let me vote for Trump. They didn't really vote for him in 2016 like that because that didn't really. I mean, yeah, there was the BLM, but it didn't really exist in the same way that it exists now. It's kind of like in the background. You know what I mean? So there wasn't that kind of fear uh, amongst them um, that existed before. But with the Cuban American community has always been a reliable Republican voting base. Um, Part of the reason is again because during the Cold War, it was the Republican Party that was heavily anti-communists and always pushing for sanctions, and Trump was one of them too. Re-sanctions on Cuba to try and overthrow the Castro regime. Like that's always been a Republican mantra. So Republican party always does well in Cuba, the same way that they appeal to evangelicals and Christians, in the same way that Democrats appeal heavily to African Americans. It's like that voter base. They know that voter base is always going to be there, but it's expanding with immigrants from other countries like Venezuela and Nicaragua, other communist countries in Latin America. So that's how. And plus, Trump, was palling around with Little Pump and Jorge Masvidal, the UFC fighter from Miami. So he used these celebrities just like Biden did to get votes in that sort of constituency, especially in Miami. But they flipped heavily for Barack Obama in 2012 and 2008. But again, they flipped back to Trump in 2016 and flipped heavily more for Trump in 20. So Trump had a lot of Hispanic support, and you got to remember too, Lisa, that a lot of Hispanics that are here legally don't really like the Hispanics that come here illegally. You know, the Hispanic Americans, the people that are born here in America, there's especially in the Mexican community, it's like there's a divide between those kinds of Hispanics that come across the border and those that um, are already here. That existed even in the 60s in the Mexican civil rights movement. There was Cesar Chavez's group, and then there was another group that was for immigrants, or what they call, well, this is a racial slur now, but what they call wetbacks. You know what I mean? Like people that just arrived from the Hispanic. I mean Mexico, especially in Guatemala and El Salvador. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it is. They don't like legal immigrants themselves, so Why would they care about what Trump is saying? You know what I mean? Hispanic Americans, they're generally more conservative socially. A lot of them are Catholic, so they're against abortion, they're against Roe v. Wade, and they're against LGBT activism. So that's why. But historically, the Hispanic. Think about it this way: um, the Republican Party was the first to feature last year two men of Hispanic descent running in the election, and will probably be the party that will eventually, over time, have the first Hispanic president of the United States. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if the Democrats run with AOC, she'll be it. But most likely, it will be from the Republican side. And a lot of Hispanic people are too are business owners, and it's heavily favors um, by the Republicans, business owners. So there is that sort of shift over to the and Biden even talked about this. Biden came under fire by some on the left when he said that the Hispanic vote is more diverse than the black vote, and he's right because here you have Cuban Americans and Venezuelan Americans in Miami that all automatically will go for Trump or any other Republican, but a lot of Hispanics in California and New York automatically go for Biden or any of the Democrats. So they are more diverse than Black Americans. There isn't really with Black Americans a viable other option. There's the Democrats, and that's it. Like there's Kansas Owens and Larry Elder and people like that, but they don't like they just say things that the white people that give them money want them to say. So, like there's no, I mean, there's no real push to get Black Americans into the Republican Party because they know that the Republican Party has a history of racism, anti-Black racisms when it comes to them. So they don't even try. But with Hispanics, it's something totally different. Both parties vie for the Hispanic vote because it could go either way. It could go either way with Hispanics. And it's with the celebrities, um, Latino celebrities endorsed John McCain uh, in 2008. You know, Pitbull was big for him. So goes either way sometimes. But especially in Miami, it's like, um, you'll probably go there and you'll see pictures of Ronald Reagan, pictures of Trump, pictures of, uh, famous Republican presidents. They're hardcore Republicans. It's weird because they're like immigrants themselves, but it can only be explained by understanding the United States' relationship to Cuba and the Elian Gonzalez crisis, which added to it too, and the fact that JFK failed in overthrowing Fidel Castro in the Bay of Pigs in the 1960s. That's why Cuban Americans feel they owe their loyalty to um, Republicans. They did flip a lot of them for Obama in 2008 and 2012, but they flipped back to Trump in 2016 and 20. So that's the story with Hispanic people. To answer your question, Lisa, yes, it's very odd that he began his campaigning against Hispanics, and he ended up voting for him in pretty large numbers. You know, what I mean? But you got to remember, like one is Mexican, one is Cuban. They have different political histories. They have different political aspirations. They don't necessarily like the. And George Stephanopoulos brought this up last night. Is that yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I do because um, we are a celebrity-driven society. We always kind of have been, but we become more so nowadays, particularly with the campaign. And what changed this was the campaign of Barack Obama in 2008, when celebrities started to really speak for Barack Obama. It was like he himself became a celebrity. He would go on Jimmy Kimmel. He would go on um, talk shows, and he was had that celebrity type aura. That he was more than just a politician. He was like a movie star, and celebrities adored him. And then Trump came along, and Trump was himself a celebrity from The Apprentice, and it became even more of a big thing. You know what I mean? Like, but to the opposite. You know what I mean? Like, they hated as much as they hated Obama. I mean, they loved Obama. They hated Trump. You know, in the celebrity world, the ones that did. So it was like we had two celebrity politicians in a way. You know, over the last 16 years. You know, that reached out to celebrities because celebrities liked them. One came from a celebrity world, and to be quite honest, with Barack Obama, if he didn't start out in politics, he himself could have been a celebrity. Michelle Obama too. They had that aura, they had that charisma, they had that swag. So I think it does matter. Now, so politicians reached out to celebrities, whereas before they really didn't. You know what I mean? Like Ronald Reagan was an actor, but he was such a shitty actor that people remember him uh, more for his politics. But it really started with him. But I think in our day and age, Lisa, it really accelerated um, under Obama because even before Obama, you had Sonny Bono was in politics and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Al Franken, right? But still, these were like senators. In presidential politics, you never really had a celebrity, a big star that had that kind of charisma in our generation anyway. Reagan was before us and Kennedy was before us too. You didn't really have that. Clinton had a little of that, I guess, when he went on the Arsenio Hall show and stuff. But yeah, he had Beyonce. Yeah, see. So it was like, and Gail said on the show last night that I was watching on CBS that Beyonce could help sway the vote to Texas for blue, increase more voters for blue, for Texas by endorsing Biden. So yes, I do think celebrities' endorsements matter more than they ever did before because of the Obama era, Obama slash Trump era. Like celebrity opinions matter. Now I don't know how much so because I don't really see President Joe Biden, you know, seeking out the endorsements of any celebrities. I don't even think he knows who these people are. You know what I mean? He might know a little, you know what I mean? But I just think he's not gonna do that. You know what I mean? Like that that era is over. you know, ended with Trump. You know what I mean? He's not gonna be tweeting and constantly. Obama didn't even do that, tweeting and stuff and all that. You know what I mean? Like, so entertainment and politics should be kept completely separate. Politicians shouldn't be entertainers. Entertainers shouldn't be politicians. Obama did it for a little, but he knew when to do it and when not to do it. Trump didn't know when not to do it and do it. To him, he was always doing it. He was always treating it like another reality show. You know? Yeah, Beyonce and Jay Z. You know, Obama was the first president to invite those kind of people to the White House, entertainers. Beyonce, Jay Z, Ludacris, Jeezy. He was the first to sell merch. He was the first to have a Facebook account and all the just a first celebrity type president ever. And then Trump came along and he used that same sort of media aura to preach his hateful message instead of Barack Obama's hopeful message. You know what I mean? But those days are done because I think that's why Biden won. Biden won because of that. I mentioned in my 2010s review video why Trump won in 2016 was because the black community didn't come out to vote. They didn't support Hillary. They didn't like Hillary. You know, and her attempts to appeal to black voters with having hot sauce in her bag. See, that's when a celebrity endorsement, yes, before Lisa about a celebrity endorsement, when a celebrity endorsement goes wrong, that's when it goes wrong. Is like when Hillary's on urban radio, hip hop radio, and she said, I got hot sauce in my bag, it backfired on her. People like, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to vote for her. Not necessarily that they voted for Trump, but they didn't come out to vote for her, and that affected her appeal um, with Trump. You know, so that's why Trump won in 2016. Biden won in 2020 because the black community did support him. They did come out for him. They long lines around the block for him, and it was the black community that won him ultimately the election. And it was why in Georgia they were trying so hard to suppress the black vote because they knew it was a chance with the black vote that he could flip Georgia. Like, because what we saw last night with the states that were close in 24, I guarantee you, if demographic shifts continue the way they are, Georgia will one day be blue. Texas will one day be blue. In 24, I'm calling it right now. In 2020, I'm calling it for electoral college in 24 that Texas will be blue in 24 and Georgia will be blue in 24. Just because if it came this close this time, then it's going to go over next time. Because remember, there was a time in American history when the Democratic Party, the South was called the Solid South, and it was all Democrats. And then, like, I think, like in Dewey versus Thomas, I believe, Truman's second election in '48, one of the states that was in the Solid South switched to red, and then they were like, "Oh my God!" They were so shocked, and then over time, they all became Republicans, and now in modern times, they're solidly Republican states. So what we saw yesterday may be the start of a movement that will convert the entire South to Democratic once again. You know, of course, the Democrats today are different than the Democrats that were voting in the solid South in from 1865 to 1964. But the 100 years, they're different. Those Democrats were racist, and they moved over to the Republican Party. Um, so it, if this change, the second change happens, it'll be a change because of African Americans. A lot of African Americans are now moving from urban centers like New York, Detroit, Chicago into the South. There's a lot of movement from California into Texas, and a lot of movement from New York into Georgia. So that's gonna change the voting patterns of um, that state, those states. It didn't happen yesterday, but it came so close that I don't see how it can't happen in 24. A switch because and it's interesting with this election, the switch of The Midwest, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, that was supposed to. Trump switched a lot of states in 2016, but he couldn't hold on to them because he lost them all in 2020. He couldn't hold them. Like, oh, so did they call it for Georgia? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I could be wrong. Georgia could go blue uh, to this election. Like that would be crazy, man. That'd be crazy, man. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, Trump was able to flip certain states that he um that he in 2016, but he wasn't able to hold on to them. The Midwestern states that were always mostly always Democrats because they factory workers, unions, all that stuff. It was always loyal Democrats, and he flipped them in 2016, but he wasn't able to hold them. So, you know what I mean? But Biden's it been the Democrats' dream forever to gain the South back since they lost it in '64. They always wanted the South back. That was their home. That was where the Democrats was founded by Andrew Jackson, a, a Southerner. You know what I mean? The South was the Democrats' home. Yeah, yeah, they lost. They lost the South in 1964 in its entirety. It used to be completely Democratic from the time of the Civil War to that time. I mean, really from the time of the country, because if you go all the way back, technically, according to what the Democrats say, the founder of their party is not Andrew Jackson, but Thomas Jefferson, who also was a Southerner, a Virginian. So it could go further back. But basically, the roots of their party are in the South, in the farmers and the rural workers, but they lost the South. And them losing the South is kind of like Christianity losing Jerusalem. Like it's their home, but there are no Christians there. you know, you know, you know what I mean. So, and for the Republicans, the Midwest has always been their home. When they were founded in the 1860s, um, they were founded as a westward expansionist party, a free soil party. Besides abolition, the abolition of slavery, their other big objective was free soil Midwest. So states like Kansas, states like Ohio, states like California were traditionally always Republican in the past. Nixon came from California, Reagan came from California. California at one time was like solidly Republican. Now it's not. I can't win a Republican. You can't win a Republican election at all. So, but yeah, they were founded as a Western party. The East, the Northeast, us here in New York, we kind of flipped in our history. We kind of flipped back and forth. Um, During the Andrew Jackson years, we were solidly Democrat. Behind Jackson, the Jacksonian Democrats, and then we kind of flipped After the Civil War, of course, we kind of, well, during the Civil War, a lot of people were still Democrats. Like a lot of people in the Civil War days, were um, against Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party here in New York. There was actually a riot in 1863 that a lot of New Yorkers that were solidly Democrats, they didn't want to go serve in the war in the South. And it turned into a race riot, but really it was an anti-draft riot. So interesting, interesting how regions flip. Yeah, um, I knew that wasn't gonna happen, Lisa, because um, the thing with COVID is a lot of people think it isn't real, but I was hoping that too. That has happened. Look at the 1980 election. Look at the 1984 election. Look at the 1964 election. Look at the 19. So that couldn't have happened, but 1932 is another example. Uh, the FDR versus Herbert Hoover. But with Trump, he's a cult of personality. Like, once again, he's a celebrity president. So people aren't necessarily voting for his policies, they're voting for him, the man. You know what I mean? So, when he loses, there's going to be more devoted to him. They're going to want him to run in 24 again. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Lisa, I was hoping that too. I was too. I was hoping that a lot of southern states would flip because they were the ones heavily affected by COVID. But they don't care about. Thing is, with the southern states, is like, yeah, store windows were boarded up. Um, that to me is an insult, and that to me is racist because they assumed that Biden was going to lose, and they assumed that Black Lives Matter or Antifa or anti-Trumpers were going to riot. So that's why they boarded it up. They weren't boarded up because of Trumpers, because we don't have many Trumpers here in New York. He lost by a huge margin here in New York. They boarded it up because they thought Biden was going to lose. I had that around here too. But to me, that was my opinion on that. I thought it was racist. You know what I mean? Like you're putting up boards on windows because you're really saying you're afraid if Biden loses, black people are gonna riot. That's what you're saying. Because Trumpers are violent too. Don't get me wrong. What they did to Governor Whitmer, but we don't have any of them in New York. You couldn't. I mean, I'd find you a Chinese Orthodox Jew in New York before I find you a person wearing a MAGA hat in public in New York with a Trump sign. People that are Trump supporters in New York are silent Trump supporters. They're supporters that they support Trump, but they keep it on the low and they keep it to themselves. They're in the closet supporters. They keep it to themselves. Yeah, they're scared, exactly. But they wouldn't go out and riot. They wouldn't because they know they'd be outnumbered. They'd just be mad in their house. Like, oh, Trump lost. They wouldn't go out and riot because they don't have the home field advantage. Now, if this was the South, this was the Midwest, then I could see the windows being boarded up for both. But here in New York, they were only boarding up for Black Lives Matter, and Antifa. And that was racist because they're assuming if Biden loses, Black Lives Matter is going to riot, you know? So that's why I thought that was racist. Like when George Floyd died, they spent the whole month businesses around here putting up Black Lives Matter signs and virtue signaling and postulating and trying to show people of color how, and particularly black people, how supportive they were of them. But in reality, in their hearts, they were internalizing the negative press and the negative media surrounding Black Lives Matter. And I think that's really too what got Trump a lot of votes, Lisa, because a lot of people bought into the narrative of the dangers of Black Lives Matter, and that Kamala and Joe are big time supporters of Black Lives Matter and Antifa when they're not. you know, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are anything but hardcore Antifa, Black Lives Matter supporters. They're middle of the road Democrats. If anything, if hypothetically speaking, if Black Lives Matter and Antifa are a problem, especially Antifa, Black Lives Matter is not. It's just an idea, a slogan, whatever. But if they are a problem under Biden's administration, they're gonna. If they were a problem under Trump's administration, they're gonna be just as big as a problem under Biden's administration because having Biden and Kamala in the White House is not gonna solve racial injustice in this country. You know what I mean? Like they're two different issues. So if some of the elites think that giving the election to Kamala and Joe, oh, everything's gonna, like some of the stock people, oh, everything's gonna go down now. People are gonna stop complaining about racial injustice every time a black guy or woman gets shot. Oh, nobody's gonna talk about Me Too anymore because Trump doesn't is not in office. No, that's not gonna happen. Activists and the activist left that push for justice for women and justice for minorities is not gonna go to sleep just because they have a Democrat in the White House now. You know what I mean? Like you gotta keep pushing and you gotta keep holding Biden and Harris to the fire and keep forcing them to do exactly what they said they were going to do in regards to marginalized communities. And if you don't do that, and if you go back to sleep like a lot of y'all was asleep during 8 years of Obama, then I mean, not 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Obama, but because Black Lives Matter was founded under Obama. But neither one is going to do anything about that. At least because here's why politicians don't solve issues. Because, and Trump did this, Obama, politicians forever have done this. They don't solve issues because if every issue got solved, it wouldn't be nothing to politic anymore about. If Roe v. Wade got solved tomorrow, most conservatives wouldn't have nothing to run on. If race relations got solved here in America and black people were given justice, Democrats wouldn't have anything to run on. So they're just going to ignore it, and they're just going to say, keep pushing and pushing it and pushing it so Biden could get a second term. That's what I believe. They ain't going to do nothing about it. And the only way they will do something about it is if there's riots in the streets, then they'll be forced to do something about it. Just like Johnson was forced to do something uh, during the civil rights movement with MLK. He didn't want to. Kennedy and Johnson didn't want to really give black people civil rights and end Jim Crow. They were forced to do it. They have to be forced. They have to be pushed. You know, then you have to be aggressive with their lobbying, just like how Israel makes sure that they talk to whoever wins. They talk to both sides because whoever wins, they want to know and they want to be in the pocket of that person so that that person can do the best they can for Israel. Whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's Trump, whether it's Pence, whether it's Obama, whether it's Clinton, doesn't matter. They speak to both sides and they make sure that both sides gets done. With Ice Cube's plan, Biden and Harris are just gonna ignore it because he went to Trump with it first. So they're gonna feel like the jealous girlfriend. You know how your jealous girlfriend, like, say yeah, like you like two girls, but you ask one out first. The other girl gonna feel like, damn, well you should have asked me first. Now I don't want to go out with you. That's how Biden and Harris gonna look at it. It's gonna be like, well, you asked Trump first. You was willing to work with Trump. We don't want to work with you. Not gonna work with Ice Cube. That plan's gonna be thrown in the. They might give it a glancing look, and then completely ignore it, and or push it to 24 when Biden's up for re-election, and see if Cube goes to Biden or to the other candidate that whoever runs against him. But and all them rappers gonna look stupid. Now, all them celebrities that supported Trump gonna look stupid because the black community is not gonna take them back. Not gonna take Lil Wayne back. His own girlfriend dumped him because he supported Trump. You know what I mean? Like his own girlfriend dumped him because he supported Trump. I mean, nobody. He like what he did was unforgivable. He did the unforgivable sin. He was disloyal. He was disloyal. More so than cheating. He cheated against humanity. You know what I mean? So she cannot take him back. So a lot of these guys, well, Little Pump is in the Cuban community. Black rappers and black celebrities and black establishment didn't really fuck with him anyway. He's corny, and he's a one hit wonder. He's a one hit wonder. Nobody really cares about what he thinks. Like them in the Dave Chappelle skit. Oh, ask Ja Rule. Well, ask Little Pump. Who asked Little Pump his political opinions? This is a retard who had a song about doing drugs with his grandma, and he's walking around with a tiger in a high school video, repeating the words Gucci gang, 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 Gucci gang. You know what I mean? Like it was one of the dumbest songs of 2017. You know, he literally says in the song, "What? Me and my grandma take meds." Like me and my grandma take meds together, take prescription drugs together. So I don't know how they could take an individual like this popular. Like Trump's campaign was like, all right, look, let's get somebody Cuban. A What about that Takashi or Takasi? Oh no, he snitched. He's not a good. He's not good. So they got the next best thing. They got bootleg Takashi. They got the Wish version of Takashi. 50 Cent past his prime. Nobody really gives a fuck about him. I mean, yeah, power, but they would switch. They were pissed at him when he changed the theme song last year when he took Joe out of the theme song and uh put Trey songs on it. So it's like, and come on, like 50's thing, 50 and his candidate and him, Trump and 50 have something in common. Uh, they each made history when they first came out, but they can never duplicate it. Wow, Trump and 50 could never duplicate their success. Trump had a successful presidential run, but he couldn't duplicate it. 50 had a successful album that made history, Get Rich or Die Trying, but he could never duplicate it. He could never do another album that was just as good. The rest of his albums were lackluster. So I think who will remain a force in political politics would be Kanye. Like, I feel bad for him because I know he's a smart guy, but he just doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's being used and he's being manipulated by right wing um, pundits and talk radio guys that don't know, that could guide him in any which direction. If he knew what he was talking about and he was able to formulate a true argument, and he could be a force to be reckoned with in the political world. But he don't. He's like Black Trump in a way. Like he reads and listens to Alex Jones. He listens to talk radio. He listens to conspiracy theorist people. You know what I mean? And he regurgitates that up as true fact. You know what I mean? Like, he probably thinks the Earth is flat. He probably thinks we didn't land on the moon. He um probably thinks JFK uh, was shot set up by President Johnson. You know, all these famous conspiracy theories that Jesse Ventura used to cover on his show. Lil Wayne probably believes them. Lil Wayne probably believes that there was no such thing as slavery. You know, stupid, or that slavery was a choice. I mean, like, yeah, I know. And their votes went to Trump. If Let's imagine a nightmare scenario, right, Lisa, and everybody else watching, the other person. Um, Biden fucks up somehow, and then in 2024, Kanye becomes a serious candidate and repeating the magic of Trump and the magic of Obama combined because of his ethnicity defeats Biden. You like, I mean, Biden would have to fuck up very badly, like worse than the coronavirus, worse than the economic crisis of 2008. But imagine he creates a pathway for Kanye to do it really seriously, to actually do it and win. President Kanye West with First Lady Kim Kardashian. That would be the end of America, yo. That would be crazy. Crazy. Like, Biden, when I mean, it's not gonna happen because Biden's a pretty cool dude, and I think he could govern pretty well. But if Biden fucks up somehow and Kanye's allowed to slide in, man, the media will fall in love again because they'll start to hate Kanye like they hated Trump, or they start to love Kanye like they loved Obama. Like, they're kind of about Biden. You know what I mean? Like, the media had a hate relationship with Trump and a love relationship with Obama, but with Trump, I mean, with Kanye, they're kind of like, I mean, Biden, they don't really care about Biden. You know, he's just like Clinton. He's just like Bush one, Bush two. He's just another old non-celebrity white guy. You know, that been in politics forever. You know, doesn't have that celebrity aura about him. Maybe Kamala, they're falling in love with Kamala as is. She's done uh, Kamala. She's done stuff on Vogue. She's done a lot of stuff. She's like she got movie star good looks. She she's funny. You know what I mean? So she might be the one in this administration that people fall in love with. People are The entertainment side is attracted to. because I know I don't. That's why I say we're really electing Kamala Harris. We don't know it yet, but we're actually electing our second black president and our first woman president. And that's why I switched my. That's one of the reasons I switched my vote too, because we're in the process of making history again. Because like this election was so weird to me because it was like on both sides. It was like I'm out here to prove that it wasn't a fluke. You know what I mean? That another person of color, major person of color on a major ticket could be elected on the Democratic side, and that a celebrity, a no experience celebrity, could be elected on the Republican side for a second time. So either way, the historic elections were going to be repeated either way. So I think that in a couple of years, because of the 25th Amendment, Biden will drop out and then Kamala will be the president. Second black president, first female president, first female president, and a good one, a good one, a good one, a good choice because it took them years. Like the first African American to run ever in a major election was a woman, Shirley Chisholm in 1972. She didn't win, but she ran. She was the first to ran in the primaries, in the Democratic primaries in 2000. Carol Mosley Braun. But again, before, oh, it says that if the president is mentally incapable of performing his tasks and duties, the vice president will take over. Yeah. It establishes succession in that way for the office. Because we had an incident, of course, Lisa, in history in 74, where the president resigned and the vice president was thrown out of office. It was Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew. And Gerald Ford had to take over, and he was the Speaker of the House. If that were to happen here, say something were to happen to Kamala and Biden, Pelosi would take over. Yeah, but then then Pence would have won the election. So for our side, it was good they didn't. Pence would have won the election because the people that um, didn't like Trump because he wasn't a real conservative, he was a Democrat in New York for all his life, like Pence. He's their wet. He's the hardcore conservative wet dream. He wants to overturn Oberfield, which is the court case that uh, legalized same-sex marriage. He wants to overturn Roe v. Wade for abortion. He wants to put it put in an amendment. He wants to put in an amendment that will explicitly state in the Constitution outlawing same-sex marriage. So Trump is a moderate compared. Because see, the thing with Trump is like he don't know anything about politics, so you could tell him anything, and that becomes his position. Like you could gear him in any sort of way. Like you could tell him, "Oh, this is a great position, sir. People will love it." And as long as it gets big ratings and it draws a big crowd, that's all he cares about. He's like a wrestler. Like they will do whatever they can to draw a crowd. That's what he cares about. He doesn't really care about policy. He doesn't understand none of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, oh, tell me what they like. Tell me what my Twitter says. Tell me what Facebook says. Tell me what the ratings are. That's all I want to know. He's a ratings guy. He doesn't care about what policies or anything. He just cares about ratings. So if he doesn't have principles like Pence or like Barack Obama, like their principles are opposite. But wow, they have principles. Trump don't have that. Trump, I could tell Trump the sky is yellow, and if I have enough money and I catch his ear, he'll believe it. you know, because he doesn't know any better. People say, "Oh, well, he didn't start no new wars," but of course he didn't. COVID happened. Before COVID, if it was no COVID, we'd be in the middle of a war with Iran right now, and he'd be the president still. We were this close to a war with Iran when he killed Soleimani back in January. So you're giving him the credit for not going to war, but why? He missed his chance to be a great war president because of COVID, which means he'll never be mentioned in the same breath as Obama or George W. Bush. Because one court's, yep, yep. But Iran got hit hard with COVID, and so did we. So that was the end of that, right? And he would have still been president. You're not gonna vote out the guy that started World War III. Biden would have stood a chance. It would have been a blowout, at least, if if World War III would have been going on right now with Iran. It would have been a blowout against Biden. You're not gonna you're not gonna change leaders in the midst of a war. That'd be stupid. And since the war didn't happen, and now they're giving him credit. Trump is a peace president. He didn't go to war. He never went to started new wars. No invasions of other countries. Yeah, but I hope you know of all the bad things about the Trump administration. One thing I hope Biden does keep is not trying not to start as many wars. Like Obama didn't start that many wars either. I hope they don't go back to the Bush years. Like that's what they wanted with Trump. They wanted to get those Bush guys back in power that wanted to people like John McCain that wanted to bomb Iran. Like they want to start that Bush stuff all over again. Obama really wouldn't let them. He did a lot of drone strikes, but he really didn't do hardcore war like that. And Trump wouldn't let him. So I hope Biden sticks to that. If not, then we're back. Yeah, yeah. They tried to push him into war with Iran, but he didn't want it. He didn't want it because he knew that you get accolades if you win a war, but if you lose a war, you become the worst president in history. So That's why they didn't want to do it. That's why he didn't want to do it. Not because he, yeah, but both Democrats and Republicans at least are itching to go back to that Bush era of who should we invade next. Who Iran, North Korea. Neither one. Biden's not going to go back to the Iran deal that Obama had, and he might scrap the Korea deal that Trump put in place. You know, Biden's old school. You know, he hangs with them old school cats. Like uh, the guy that Bolton, the guy that Trump fired, John Bolton, the guy that Trump fired, wanted to try to convince Trump to go in every single war in the Middle East. They wanted to try to convince Obama to go to war with Iran too. They've been itching to go to war with Iran since they started in Iraq. You know? Well, because of the pandemic, yeah. The pandemic. The pandemic was Trump's downfall. Um, he was ill prepared of how to deal with it. Like I said, he didn't know what to do. And Jared Kushner was a kid. He didn't know what to advise him about. Ivanka and the same thing. Ivanka and Jared Kushner were his main advisors, and they didn't really know what to do when it came to that. So their thing was like downplay it, downplay it, downplay it until they couldn't downplay it anymore. Tell people it's like the flu so they don't get scared. Keep lying to them basically. And he didn't want to use Obama's advice because he wanted to. The thing with Trump was like, why they want to downplay it? Because they didn't want to prove the critics right that their father and their father-in-law doesn't know what he's doing. What I mean? Like, so they gave him like lowball tasks. The First Step Act, meetings with Korea, but when it came to things like that's why they didn't get into any wars because he didn't know what he was doing. He wouldn't know what he was doing in war. Trump only seen war on TV. Yeah, you know, he wouldn't know what he was doing. But Jared, his daughter and his son-in-law were his advisors throughout the White House, and he would change his mind every 5 seconds, and it would be like Scaramucci talked about this because Scaramucci knew both Barack Obama's White House and Donald Trump's White House, and he said the difference was if you would tell President Obama something, he would read like 50 books on it just to get a grasp of it, an understanding of it. He was a real academic student, an academic person. Whereas Trump, he doesn't like to read, and he'll hear stories, and then 5 minutes later he'll hear a different story, and he'll change his view. So he has no views. He just goes with what people say. People say something, oh yeah, that's the truth. He has no concrete opinions, no concrete views. He just goes with the flow, and you can't be a president like that. You know what I mean? And he knew that if he took the thing seriously, that's why I say he treated it all like a campaign. He knew if he took it seriously, that the hardcore right wing base would have said that he sold out. So he tried his best to remain anti-mask, anti-vax, you know, and he politicized it. The mask and the mail-in vote, mail-in ballots became politicized. Now he lost because he continuously denounced the mail-in ballots as fraudulent before the election. So his followers didn't mail in their ballots, but the Democratic followers did mail in their ballots. Most Democratic followers mailed in their ballots. Most people that went the day of were Republicans. Had they all mailed in the ballots, maybe it'd have been a more even race and maybe he'd have won. But he demonized ballots. He politicized everything. He politicized the NFL. He politicized the NBA ratings. He politicized everything. Everything he felt he needed to be an issue on, and the nation, because of it, became divided because of everything. The whole world, inter- politics became entertainment, and entertainment became politics in the 2010s, during, especially during his administration, because every little thing he would point out that person. He would make an enemy of that person. Somebody would quit from the administration, like Jeff Sessions. Right. Yep. Even him getting the virus. Somebody from the administration would get kicked out. Jeff Sessions. Next thing you know, he's tweeting about Jeff Sessions. Somebody would get fired, like Scaramouche, the Mooch. He was tweeting about them. He was making every little thing a battle, every little thing a contest, every little thing a issue, and it just it just created. Uh, he was the Fox News president. Like every little thing Fox News said, he believed it. Fox News was his true advisors. He would sit there on his phone in the White House. This is in Bob Woodward's book. He'd sit there on his phone in the White House or the TV, and he would devour Fox News 24/7, devour the Drudge Report, devour Breitbart, all these right wing talk radio stuff. And he would just regurgitate every little talking point they said and formulate it as his policy. They said Reagan did it from movies, but Trump did it from news reports. Trump would like say there was a story about. Uh, he never repeated the vicious libel that Michelle Obama was a transgender, and I'm glad he didn't. That was the only one he never regurgitated out. But the other ones, every little thing. Oh, the Roseanne Valerie Jarrett thing. That he made a thing. That didn't even concern him, but he made it a thing on his campaign. He made everything an issue. Every little thing was a chance to attack somebody, a chance to belittle them, a chance to bully them. He made the nation a more evil nation, a more trollish nation. Because people, even though they weren't his supporters, they would begin to take on his demeanor. You know what I mean? They would begin to act like him and thought it was okay to demean people, thought it was okay to bully them and push them around. And then complain later on when you were being bullied and beaten up and pushed around. Like, yeah, Liz. He never repeated that one, but he repeated every other one. Every little scandal, rumor. It'd be like if I was the president and every day I picked up tabloids and I just started reading them and I based my policy off what the tabloid said. Oh, there are aliens in New Mexico. Let's go after the aliens. Michael Jackson sleeps in a hyperbaric chamber. Wow, let's find that hyperbaric chamber. Let's put out a search team. Come on, you can't run a presidency like that. Like, but that's how it was. And Steve Bannon was mainly the one guiding Trump. He was Trump's Yoda. Like, he was telling Trump, this is how you had to be. Trump, on the night of the election, he wanted to be conciliatory. He wanted to bring the parties together. But Bannon was like, no, Yeah, that too. But he couldn't though. His base was hardcore. You know, he couldn't. If he'd have done that, then his base would have abandoned him. Like, I think a man of Trump's age is most likely a racist himself, but I think having grown up around New York and stuff, he's more tolerant than your average person his age, maybe. But he never he never denounced racism. You're right. He never spoke out against it. He always tried to look at both sides, but your ability to look at both sides shows how uninformed you really are. Because there's no looking at both sides when it comes to white supremacists and neo Nazis. You know, there's no like that was his moment where he fucked up. Like he had his chance. Like as mad as the media was for Trump winning, Trump actually had his chance, his opportunity to denounce racism then and there after Charlottesville, and he didn't do it. He didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, and that was the difference between him and Barack Obama too. It was like when the media got on Barack Obama for Reverend Wright, he immediately denounced Reverend Wright. You know, he made a whole press conference about it. He even denounced police brutality in Ferguson because of Mike Brown. Trump didn't do that. Obama didn't. Obama didn't take sides. Trump didn't take sides either. He said both sides, but look what Obama didn't say. Oh, the cop killers are just as justified in what they're doing in Ferguson as you know because of what happened to Mike Brown. Obama didn't say that. Obama took a stance on it and denounced the cop killers, the Christopher Donners, and all that stuff. The the people like Michael Xavier Johnson, things like that that happened to police. Um, the shootings of Officer Ramos and Officer Wu in New York. Obama denounced it. Obama didn't indulge it. He didn't say that. Oh well, the ones that shot Officer Ramos and Officer Wu were good people. No, they were horrible people. They shot police, whether they were justified or not. You, as the president, can't say that they were good people on both sides. That's where Trump failed. Was that he never denounced white supremacy and racism. He, in his actions, maybe in his words he did, but in his actions he didn't. He kept aligning with them. He kept appealing to them. He kept dog whistling to them, and he kept winking to them. He never he never appealed to moderation. That was his downfall. But also the downfall of Bernie Sanders on the left, and why Bernie Sanders lost two elections. I believe Bernie Sanders was screwed out of the 2016 election, but in this one in 2020, he was too partisan and he wouldn't denounce socialism. So he was considered unelectable in 2020. That's what I think happened to Bernie. I think, well, now we'll have 8 years of Biden and Kamala, but I think Buttigieg should get another chance one of these days because he's a good politician, but his was a really big long shot. A mayor of South Bend, Indiana, excuse me, first gay candidate, too big of a long shot. And we just legalized gay marriage, what, 5 years ago? Too soon. But he will, as somebody like him will one day. Elizabeth Warren, I liked her, but she was too progressive. She was another one. She wouldn't denounce the hardcore of her base, and you can't just govern for your base. You have to govern for the whole country. So Biden's the one. Biden's a moderate. Whatever hardcore left wingers wants to bring into the party, will be brought in by Kamala rather, and that's it. You know, Trump was never reined in. Trump's instincts were never reined in. Like, hey, Trump, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't tweet that. That's bad. He kept just being able to do what he was going to do, and he basically defeated himself. Like Biden ran a shitty Kim. Uh, yeah, yeah, but UBI, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a good idea. It could work, but you have to find a way to pitch it to the American people that doesn't sound like they're all going to be on disability, because that will destroy their independent man and independent woman spirit that we have in America. You know what I mean? So, like, because the way we'll interpret it, this is how we think. This is why Obamacare failed. People in America think that if I get free money from the government, that means the government owns me. Or if I get free health care from the government owns me. So you have to market it in a way that will be acceptable to the United States. And if Yang can do that, Yang will win. Another guy I was thinking about, Luis, I don't know if you think we ever thought about this. What about Jeff Bezos? Bezos, Amazon guy. I don't know what he knows about politics, but he's hella rich. And I think after 4 years of Trump, we don't want to go down that road again. Yang, yeah, he's good, man. I like him. I like how he's getting putting the pressure on the wrestlers. They think they might put it him in Biden's administration for the small business department, which would really stick it to Linda McMahon and the McMahons in general, because Trump put her involved with the small business administration his first term. Well, he only had one term, but first go around, he had her in his administration, and that would really stick it to Vince and Linda, because Yang's been talking mad shit about wrestling and how wrestlers should be unionized, and they shouldn't allow the WWE to take away their Yang. Yang has been talking mad shit about the head of the WWE that used to be in Trump's cabinet as his small business advisor. Yang's been Yang for the past couple of months has been talking mad shit about the WWE and about the wrestlers and how they're not treated right. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I was just laughing, but with Yang, yeah, he 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 been coming at the wrestlers because unfair working conditions. Like, that's what Democrats specialize in: unfair working conditions, unsafe working conditions. No pension, no retirement. Your wrestlers die at the age of 40. The government, somebody in the government has to do something about it. And you had the president of the United States in your Hall of Fame and in your back pocket. He had your wife in his cabinet, and the people overlooked it. But with Yang, he's a wrestling fan, and a politician, so he's going to look into that, whereas the government never looked into it before. He's going to actually do something about wrestling. Put some more regulations on it for the protection of the wrestlers. So I like Andrew Yang's ideas about UBI. UBI take, because What he predicted is ultimately going to happen. And that's why he should be in charge with labor too, because he understands business. What he predicted about automation is going to happen. Like there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Automation will take you over, and then what? And the point of UBI is to subsidize you so you don't go completely under. Because once all those jobs Trump was talking about, they're never coming back. They're gone. You know what I mean? Like people that voted for Trump were sold the pipe dream that those jobs were gonna one day come back from China and India. No, my friend, they are gone forever. This is why the meme came out. Learn the code. Learn something different. Learn a new craft. Because not your value as a woman or a man is going to go down, but your value in terms of labor will, because you won't know how to do that stuff. This is what happened to secretaries in the 70s. Secretaries in the 70s, when computers came out, yeah, when computers came out, secretaries in the 70s, uh, their skills became obsolete. They had to get a new job. That's what Andrew Yang means when he says learn the code. But yeah, I think a young person, the days of an old person running for president is out of it because the people can't relate to them. But they got to be over 35 though, at least. So what about AOC? I want AOC to run. She has some good ideas. Well, they can't because unless they primary Biden, but people I wanted to run are all Democrats. So they would have to primary Biden in 24. It depends on how good he does. Because there have been situations where the president and somebody else run will challenge them, run against them in their own party. There have been situations like that. 76 was like that. Gerald Ford. Yeah, yeah. But it's just sad, you know? Like when I look at movies like Hillbilly Elegy and I see movies like that and what happened to the manufacturing jobs, it's sort of like the ghetto, you know? The 70s when white flight happened and white people left the inner cities, people that were minorities were left with nothing, no work. So they had to get into drugs. And it caused a lot of depression, a lot of mental health, and a lot of dysfunction. That's exactly what happened to rural America. Single motherhood, social dysfunction. But they still vote for Republicans. They still vote for pro business Republicans. Because why? I'm a Republican and I'm proud to be one. I don't want no socialists coming to my neighborhood trying to take it over. Y'all are socialists. That's what they say. Y'all are socialists. Bernie Sanders, Alexander Ocasio Cortez, socialist. But I'm trying to help you, ma'am or sir. I don't care. I like Trump. Trump is smart. know. But sir, what don't what about this Obamacare? Get that Obamacare. Like the things they hate about Obamacare are not the things even to hate about Obamacare. Like they hate Obamacare because it's a government option in health. But the reason to hate Obamacare is because it doesn't go far enough. But they don't hate it for that. They hate it for the good things it does. And a lot of them use it. Now that Trump isn't president, I guess Obamacare is safe, right? The ACA. Obamacare is going to become entrenched in our American system. It's not going anywhere. I don't think. Too many elderly depend on it. A lot of them don't even know what it is. Or what it does. They just hate it because Obama gave it to them. Like Trump, his scheme I found out was to do the exact same thing Obama did with Obamacare, but call it Trump Care. I'm gonna give him Trump Care. Which would be funny because dummy Obama didn't give uh, them Obamacare. He gave them the Affordable Care Act. People called it Obamacare. When Trump started asking, when they called it Trump Care. You know, like there's plenty of reasons to hate Obamacare, and even Obama said it himself. But the reasons why the right wing hates it are not the reasons to hate it. you know, like a lot of people don't know this, but the original Obamacare was what Bob Dole was pushing in 1996 as a health care plan. What Mitt Romney had in Massachusetts on a state level is a conservative um, it's a conservative solution to the healthcare problem. So the only reason they hated it was because people called it Obamacare. They'd have called it, yep. So what Trump was going to do was take Obamacare and call it Trump Care and sell the exact same thing to the American people and say that he got rid of Obamacare and gave us something better. That was obvious because whenever you would ask him, well, what's the something better, Mr. Trump? He would say, nothing is gonna be great. I'm gonna overturn Obamacare, and it's gonna be something great. That was all we got from something great. Right. Obama would have done it, but the thing was, he had watch this documentary released Frontline, and you'll see that divided America. It's Trump and Obama's picture, and you'll see that during Obama's administration, Republicans got together in a back room and said, if Obama says it, say no. Doesn't matter what he says, even if he says the same thing we just said, say no. Block him on everything. Even if Obama said, hey, isn't it a nice day outside, sir? Nope. But the sun is shining. I don't care. I said no. That was their philosophy. Every little law they got together and they said, nope, lock Obama on everything. Make sure this presidency doesn't mean shit. Because they knew if he did a good job, they probably want to elect another black president. And they wouldn't want that. A second one, they might want to elect one next time that's a descendant of slaves here in America, and that would be even worse from their point of view because of the history behind it. So they didn't want it to be a success. They wanted to show why for hundreds of years we never had a black president because the black guy couldn't govern. That was the whole point of them being cool with Obama being in office was to show that. But he pushed it through anyway. And Trump wasn't able to overturn most of the stuff Obama did, only in trade and everything, which wasn't good stuff anyway. And the executive orders, which can't stick anyway. Yeah, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to show that, uh, um, that he wasn't capable, he wasn't smart enough. But he outsmarted them all. He was a good president. But he didn't do the things they wanted. He didn't fall into the traps they wanted him to fall into. Like after Newtown happened and he tried to pass legislation on gun control. Yeah, they didn't want to work with him at all. Democrats kind of did the same thing with Trump too, though. They blocked Trump every second of the way. The stuff he was trying to do was shit anyway. So I'm glad. I'm glad they. Yeah, yeah, it did, because it got us Trump. It got us Trump. It got us Trump. Because the rationale of the American people, especially from the Obama Trump voter, the voters like me that switched three times, was like, okay, we tried with somebody that was an outsider, kind of with Obama. Well, let's punish them and let's put in somebody that's an even more outsider that's going to give them hell in Washington, both Democrats and Republicans. Let's punish them hard and give them Trump. you know, you know what I mean? And it worked kind of, but it backfired on us. You know what I mean? So now it's time to return back to normalcy with Biden. Because it wasn't really Obama that failed us, it was the government that failed us during Obama's administration. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And then under Trump's administration, the Democrats did the exact same thing. Like, not to say that all of Trump's bills were good, but if one was good, they wouldn't have passed it anyway because it was Trump. you know? And they were mad he won the 2016 election. Both Obama and Trump were outsiders. They didn't, and Obama had his race. You know what I mean? So he wasn't, neither one was one of them. And he didn't want to work with those guys. And that might be the downfall to somebody like AOC too. But she, by the time she runs, she'll probably be in office for a while. She'll know how to play ball. Because it's a thing like, whose ass do I got to kiss? on both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, yeah, Trump had a Republican Congress when he went in, but they didn't like Trump. They didn't want Trump. Like, you know what's funny, Lise? I think if Hillary had beaten both those guys, Obama and Trump, our country would have ran a lot smoother. Because she wasn't liked by the people, but she was liked by the Washington, the people in Washington was was in love with her and wanted to see her win both times and do that. Yeah, I'm saying the people in Washington wanted to see Hillary in '08, and they wanted to see her in 2016, and she didn't get either time. Lost to outsiders. So uh, both times the news made it seem like there was no way she could lose, and she lost. you know, if we'd have given it to her, maybe it would have been so in a crazy situation. AOC will have that problem too. Yang will have that problem. Oh wow, okay, yeah, yeah. But then again, you got to remember too. During then, we were also coming back from World War II, and President Wilson had just died. So. President Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, um, presidency was a very missed opportunity too, at least because after he died, we didn't go into the League of Nations, and because us and Russia didn't go in, Britain punished Germany, which led to the rise of Adolf Hitler. Britain and France took away Germany's military and punished Germany pretty severely. They put in place a Weimar Republic, which led to a lot of social decency, which people were calling out, "Help, help!" And Adolf Hitler heard their cries and he rose to power as a demagogue. In a vacuum, anything is possible. We saw that with Trump. Like when people are desperate, they'll cling to anything, just like they did with the Nazis in the 1930s and the communists in Russia for the revolution of 1917. That's why Franklin Delano Roosevelt was such a dynamic president, because during the time of the Great Depression, it it was it was it was easy. It would have been easy to for FDR to become that, to become like a Trump or like a Hitler, and just take power and never give it away. But he didn't. You know what I mean? He surrendered it. Could have been easy. Obama could have did it too. You know, 2008, he could have seized power and passed all kinds of legislations to restrict the rights of the people, but he didn't do it. If Trump would have came in 2008 and had that opportunity in 2008 during a time of mass desperation, he'd have been the king by now, the king of the United States. Because people, no, they didn't. The people didn't. The government people did. Even Republicans, they would have worked with Hillary. They would not. They did not have worked with. They didn't work with Obama. They didn't work with Obama. She, in the end, she was right in the things she said about both Obama and Trump. She was right. So what she said about Obama was that he wasn't really that good with working with people in Washington as good as he thought. He wasn't gonna really get things done. And what she said about Trump is that he's neurotic and he makes decisions off the cuff and he'll fuck this country up. And she was right on both instances. So, dislike, love or hate Hillary, she's a smart woman and she knows politics. You know, she know she would have got in there in '08. She would have got in there in 16, and the Congress would have listened to her. But we didn't want that. I didn't even want it. I didn't vote for her in '08 or 16. Yeah, you know, because I'm looking at it from the people's point of view. We didn't really fuck with Hillary like that or like her. You know what I mean? Because we assumed, I did anyway. I'll speak for myself, that it was going to allow Bill to go be up to his old games that he was up to in the '90s. You know, like even going further back, Lise, what if we'd have went with Gore? What if Gore would have won in 2000? We'd have been in a whole different situation then. 9/11 wouldn't have happened. No war in Iraq, no war in Afghanistan, no financial collapse, no Barack Obama, and no Donald Trump. Because the thing with Barack Obama is he rose to power, or he rose to fame, given the speech for John Kerry at the 2004 um, the 2004 convention, DNC convention. And uh, he wouldn't have done that if George Bush wouldn't have been such an inept president, getting us into a war in Iraq that we didn't want to be in, or we didn't need to be in. But Gore wouldn't have done that because Gore had experience with dealing with Iraq when he was Clinton's advisor, when he was Clinton's vice. So it would have saved us like 16 years, 2016 to 24 years of differences. We wouldn't have dealt with Bin Laden. We wouldn't have dealt with none of that stuff. If the 2000 election had gone the way the Democrats wanted it to go. Bush was so bad that we needed Obama, and the Republicans blocked Obama to make his presidency so lame duckish and unaccomplished that it paved the way for Trump, and Trump's shit was so horrible that it paved the way for coronavirus. You know, so that's how we got to where we're at. Unfortunately, um, I'm hoping Biden could fix it. Biden could set the clock back, but it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time because yeah, he did it before. So yeah, I think he was. He was gonna use it as an opportunity to to beat to meet more young girls as the first gentleman. because the first gentleman and the first lady doesn't really do shit anyway. So in that in that free time, Bill and with the internet now, Bill will be loving it. He'll be loving it. He's a sex addict, Bill Clinton. Hillary even admitted it. He was a good president, though. I mean, if he'd have killed Bin Laden when he had him the chance in '99, instead of being focused on the impeachment, we wouldn't have been in that issue either. He ignored it. He claims he didn't want to bomb Sudan because there were civilians there. But 9/11 could have been avoided too. It's crazy. What can you do? Just like with Corona, Trump could have made certain moves that could have prevented Corona and won him the election, but he didn't do it. So we are where we are. History, Lisa, and social studies is all about learning about cause and effect. What did this person do that made this person do this other thing that caused this event? And when you're looking at politics, sometimes men and women are men and women. We mess up, you know. But in the end, Hillary was right. Experience wins out over newness. You know, she was right. Trump didn't have the experience at all. Obama had limited experience, and neither guy was prepared to deal with the war zone that was Washington, especially when neither party works with you because the Democrats think Trump is illegitimate and the Republicans don't want to work with Obama because he's black. So both guys came in thinking they could really make a change in Washington, and they didn't make shit because the other side wouldn't work with them because they weren't from that world. But they connected better with the people than those old men and women. You know what I mean? Because even Nancy Pelosi's like 80. you know, you know, McConnell's like 75 with his hands. Oh God, his hands. You see a picture of it? At least look it up on the internet. His skin looks like it's rotting away. Mitch McConnell, and he won re-election last night. Crazy. I think that would happen to somebody like a Yang or AOC too. They'll come in there being an outsider, not knowing, thinking they could take on the world like Trump and Obama, and be blocked at every turn by the opposing party, especially AOC, because the Republicans don't like her already. And Yang, and the thing with two, with not so much with Obama, but more so with Trump, was that the party was jealous of him because they were like, how does this guy with a reality show get a chance at the presidency, and I've been here forever and I didn't get that chance? Chris Christie, they tried to sabotage him by giving him bad advice. And that would happen to Yang too. That would happen to AOC too. It would happen to any gut person in the squad, any young person. That's the problem with being young, is that like one guy campaigning on hope and change The other one said they were going to drain the swamp. And so far, there's no hope, there's no change, and there's no drain of swamp. You know, because once they got in there, they saw the opposition, both from the other party and from their own party, that by the time they were both done, they were just both like, fuck it. You know, you know what I mean? I tried, but there's nothing I could do for you people. I know Barack Obama was like that. His last State of the Union was just like, basically I tried and he blocked me. So, but their base will always remain loyal to them. Trump's base will always remain loyal to him. Barack Obama's base will always remain loyal to him. You know what I mean? But the people in government, your own party will sabotage you. They feel like you're getting too much done. And neither guy had the experience to know what to do in situations like that. Carter failed for that reason too, at least. Carter failed for that reason too. Jimmy Carter, uh, president in the 70s, was considered a failed president as well because he didn't get anything done. Because again, just like with Obama, they blocked him. He was a Washington outsider. People always want to like the Washington outsider, but every time they do, Washington insiders just block them and make them look stupid just to prove a point that they don't belong. That's why I would never get into politics. I like watching from the sidelines, but I would never become a politician because I'll come from nowhere, like an Obama or whatever, you know, and like I'll start making moves, start want to do things, and then if it's not my party, it'll be the opposing party to cut my legs off, and make sure that my legacy doesn't mean shit because I was a Washington outsider that dared to enter into their world. What they did to Obama, what they even did to Trump. They were saying in 2008 he was too experienced, too inexperienced. He's not going to know what he's doing. And they made sure that was true. Because every time he tried to pass something, they blocked him. Same thing with Trump. Too experienced, too inexperienced. The TV star doesn't know what he's doing. Blocked. Made to look a fool of. Now they got Biden. He's one of their boys. He's been in the Congress for 30 something years. He knows how to play ball. He's going to get a lot of shit done. Unless the Democrats and Republicans in the party are too jealous and want to block him like they blocked Obama because they didn't lose it. They lost the election under shady terms with the counting situation. That might happen too. But they don't realize when they play these petty games of trying to trip out the president, both on the Dem side and the Republican side, who does it cost? It costs the people. We're the ones that suffer from that, not you. You start off wanting to help people, and you get to a point where you don't want to help them anymore because it's too hard. That's why they say Both Obama and Trump went into Washington not to be absorbed into the swamp, not to be absorbed into the politics as usual, and both got absorbed in. Interesting history we live in. We live in now. It's modern history, more interesting than ancient history too, because there's more sources to verify it. Anyway, at least I'm gonna. Yeah, thank you. Um, I love it. I love it. I love the the flow of it. Like making videos is one thing, but like with you interacting with me and the other guy interact with me and able to give my opinions, I love that kind of thing. And just bounce off people. You know, because I see it from both sides. I see it objectively. Like it's not just the Republicans, it's not just the bane of existence. The Democrats do it too. It's like we saw it throughout these 16 years with both Obama and Trump. Okay, question Trump's intelligence, question his racism, question his whatever, but you still didn't. They still didn't let him lead. Like he was never allowed to do anything. Like they punished him for 4 years just for winning an election. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like the deck was stacked against him, and he succeeded, and you punished him for succeeding. You made sure, like, look, for example, at least what they're doing with the stimulus now, the Democrats. They're not pushing through the stimulus for the people because they don't want Trump's legacy attached to it. The same thing the Republicans did with Obamacare. It was something good for the people. It's something that the opposing party came up with, but they won't do it because of politics. They're too petty. Oh, we Pelosi. Oh, we can't push it through because because whatever bullshit reason she gave. But the real reasons they don't want President Trump to get the love for that. You know what I mean? They don't want him to be the like, all right, President Trump was shitty, but he gave us the stimulus and he saved us in this way. He's leaving anyway. Let him do something. Let him do something, please. You didn't like Bush, but you let him push through the war. But you didn't let Obama do shit, and you didn't let Trump do shit. You know, you know, like they had to make both guys had to make executive powers use their executive power to do things because neither branch of Congress didn't want them to do anything, and they had and both guys are parallel because each guy had their own party in power when they came into the presidency. Obama had 2 years with the Democrats. They didn't let him do anything either. Trump had 2 years with the Republicans. They didn't let him do anything. So it wasn't just the guy against the party. It was the guy against his own party because they felt he shouldn't be there because each side was nominated by the populist wing of the party of Obama was a populist Democrat and Trump was a populist Republican for the people, not for the establishment. You know, the establishment that the Republicans wanted in 2016 was Jeb Bush, and the establishment the Democrats wanted in 2008 was Hillary Clinton. They groomed Bush for that. They felt he was destined for that. And when Trump took it from him, they punished Trump. Same thing for Hillary with the Democrats with Obama and Bernie Sanders. I always said the head of WWE, Vince McMahon, would be good in politics because he does that. He'll hire a WWE wrestler from another company just to punish them, just to make them look stupid. And politicians do that too. They cut your legs out from under you and your balls if you have them. If you're a man, if you're a woman, they make you look too emotional to appeal to the stereotype that females are overly emotional. That's what they would do to AOC. They would make it seem like she's too emotional to handle the office. Look at her always going off the handle. They wouldn't have done it to Hillary because they felt like they always wanted Hillary to be America's Margaret Thatcher or America's Golden Mayor. But people on both sides of the aisle are fed up with this bullshit. You know, each side of the aisle nominated somebody that they felt was a Washington outsider twice for the Democrat side, Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama, and each time around the establishment destroyed that person. So people started to lose faith in politics now. People say, "Oh, well, it's all fake. It's all like professional wrestling now. They're all working together. What side should I root for? It doesn't matter anyway. Each side is gonna fuck me." Yeah, you got Joe Biden. Hope he does good. Hope he sticks up for the little guy. Hope he stops all these multinational corporations from being jobs being shipped overseas. Hope he pushes through healthcare. Hope he fixes Obamacare. Hope he does all that stuff. Probably won't. Probably will outdo both Trump and Obama in drone strikes in third world countries in the Muslim world. You know, not that I didn't want him to become president, but once you get your guy in, you got to hold him or her feet to the fire and force him through legislation to do what you want them to do. Because that's what you got to remember. They don't rule over us, we rule over them. That's the way the Constitution was designed. We, the people of the United States, we're not a people with a government. We're a government. We're not a government with a people. We're a people with a government. If the government doesn't work for you, according to the Declaration of Independence, you have the right to throw it out. And these governments that we've had in the past weren't really working for us. We wanted to work for the average everyday American. Not the billionaires and the trillionaires and things like that. Tired of having government work for them. You know, both Trump and Barack Obama talked about the forgotten man, the common man. Well, their administration, the forgotten man, was even more forgotten. you know, what can you do? What you got to do, and this is what President Obama said in his campaign speech. His speech for Kamala and Biden, is don't just focus on Kamala and Biden. Once you get them in, focus on the midterms. Get some justice and progressive Democrats in the legislature that with new, fresh ideas, not from the establishment, that will do something for the common people in your district, in your hometown. Not with just the presidency. Don't look at the presidency like it's a movie star, whatever. Like him or her is Queen Elizabeth or Meghan Markle. No, our government is supposed to function for us. We're not just entertainers like Meghan Markle and Queen Elizabeth and stuff tied to tradition. Our government is to function for us, and if they don't do that, get rid of them, whether they have a D or an R next to their name. They're doing good for you. Allow them to do good for you. Anyway, Lacey, I'm about to go. Peace, guys. Love you. I know this was a long ass video.